So let's talk about planks. Planks, there are so many myths about them, there are so many theories about them, and there are so many rules out there. If you would call up 5 different yoga, Pilates teachers and 5 different personal trainers, you will hear all different kind of input about how to, what not to, what to. So I've been doing quite some research on my own body, with people I work with, and doing some research in listening to people, working with people who are absolute nerds in their field of science. And what I have found is, first of all, you always have to test things out on your own body to find out what works for you. Same if you work with clients, you have to test things out with them and get the feedback, what works, what doesn't work. But then there is this one brilliant guy, he's called Stuart McGill, and he's a scientist who kind of created the best plank, the most spine-loving plank. Well, I'm a big fan of dynamic planks and playing in planks, but before you can do that, you first need to build that basic grid in your body to be strong enough to carry your own weight, to have support for your joints. Okay, so this is a little tutorial about how to plank in a way that is really helping your body become stronger from the inside out. So it's not the abs first, it's the stability first. What I need to say before we start doing that, there's also a lot of challenges out there to teach you to do like 5-minute planks, 30-minute planks. What science says is, and I'm sure there's something else saying something different out there, but what I have found also in working is that 30 seconds to 1 minute is enough. It's enough to get all the physical benefits. So if you want to go longer, that's cool, but then it becomes more of a mental challenge, right? So for now, we're going to build a steady plank, and I want you to think all the time neutral spine. So what is a neutral spine? A neutral spine is not completely rounded, it's not arched. It is not straight, it's neutral. So it has a natural curve in the low back, in the lumbar spine. It has a natural kyphosis, rounding in the upper spine. And again, it has lordosis, a bit of hollowness in the neck. And that's where the spine is most resilient. Okay, so for a plank, we're going to start on forearms, and we're going to go to a side plank, left, side plank, right, or the other way around, whatever. And to find a way, how can we roll from the one side to the other without actually putting more strain on the spine than is good for. Okay, so come on your forearms, knees on the floor. Make sure first to give some space to your shoulders. So if I would place put my hair on the side. If I would place my arms too tight together, that will kind of start to compress the shoulder joints. So make sure they're kind of wide apart, shoulder width apart, maybe a slight bit wider, but if they're too wide, then it's a lot of muscle tension building up there. So find your spot, place your hands on the floor strongly, and step your feet back. And now what you want to do as you're doing this, if it's too heavy to keep your knees off the floor, you can tip them on the floor, but make sure not to push your bum up or to hang in your pelvis and your low back. Okay, so now you want to find that neutral spine, and it can help to maybe tilt the pelvis forth and back, and then to find that point where it feels the most natural. Maybe in a plank you're like, I don't know, this is too heavy. Make your shoulders wide, make your belly, your abdominal muscles tense enough to hold you, but not so tense that they're completely stuck. And knees back down, come back. Okay, so you're looking for, like, when you're standing, that kind of neutral spine is what you try to find in your plank. Same counts if you do it on your, with your arms stretched. Again, you're looking for that neutral spine. So all the, like the yoga, tuck in your tailbone and tilt your pelvis, don't do it. See if you can again find that natural curve in your low back, and that's where you want to build the strength around and the stability. And make sure you don't hang in your shoulders, but you press the floor away. So there's a lot of action going on in this upper part of the back where you're not hanging in your bones, but you're actually spreading out the shoulder blades and pressing the floor away. Okay, so that's like the symmetrical plank, really plank. And if you can hold this for 30 to 60 seconds, you're doing really great. Okay, so then for a side plank. Let's start building that up from on the forearm. And start when you're sitting in this like mermaid position. Bring your right arm on the floor. Now, the thing that happens first is people hang in the shoulder. So if you find yourself doing that, make sure to again press that shoulder away. What you don't want to do is place your arm too close to your hip, because now it's all of my deltoideus muscle which has to hold me up. You want to place it in a point where there's some stability going on between bone, joint, and muscle. Then again, press your hand in the floor. If it's not possible for you to bring your hand down, make a fist and make sure there's action there. Then the other thing that happens is people hang, like in the old Greek times where they were fed grapes, like hanging there. Don't do it. So bring your left, if the right side is on the floor, bring your left hand to the side of your below your ribs and between your ribs and your hips. And then make sure you activate a little there. So again, you're creating that neutral spine. Also, what you don't want to do is arch up, like this side is now stretching and this side is completely contracted. You want to again find that neutral spine. Like when I'm sitting up like this, I'm in the same back position. I'm in a neutral spine as when I'm going this way. But it requires a little more body intelligence there. All right, so let's build up from here, either with the hand on the floor or the fist. Now you start to lift your hips up and push them forward. So they come from almost like you're sitting and you lift them up and forward. And now you have to activate this lower side. And again, don't hang or don't push up or don't hang in your shoulder. Make sure you have long, strong, neutral positions in your body and you're holding yourself. If this comes easy for you, you stretch up the upper leg. So that's the left one in this case. And you place it slightly out of the midline to the front, the inside of the leg. And now I start to press my foot into the floor and activate the inside of my thigh. Okay, if this, again, I feel like I'm not hanging or pushing up, if I feel strong enough, you can now place the right foot a slight bit to the back. So your feet are placed in front of each other. And again, you don't want to hang or push, you don't want a banana any way up. You want to be strong here. Now here you're in a super strong plank, side plank, which will benefit your back greatly. This you want to build up on the other side as well. Okay, so you come back down, bend your knees, bum comes down, and you can come back up to a seated position. So first you want to build that up on the right side, on the left side, and in the middle. And then the cool thing is you can start to stick them together. You can make a rolling plank, but you want to make it a really conscious rolling plank with a lot of body intelligence, especially for the whole trunk part of it. So let's roll the plank. Let's say you've been practicing side plank, one side plank, other side, and the middle plank. Okay? Then you can start to roll your planks. Play your lower arms on the floor. Step to your symmetrical plank. And again, make sure you're not hanging down or pushing up. Make sure your shoulders are strong and wide and your hands are pressing in the floor, heels are stretched a little backwards. And you find that neutral spine. Okay, sometimes you have to take a moment to really tap into that spine and feel. Now, say I want to roll to the right side. I do this for the camera again, to the right. I turn my right arm a little bit in. I keep my elbow where it is, but I turn my right arm a little bit in. My feet are quite far apart. So they're not wider than the mat, but they're wide enough to have some space in between them if I would roll them sideways. Now, what I want to think is that my shoulders and my hips are like a plank. So what I'm not going to do is this, and this is what I see all the time in movement classes. You first see the low part and then the upper part. That's a no. Stop doing that because you're putting a lot of stress on the low back. Roll back to the center. Feet are up. You want to think shoulders all the way down to your hips are one plank. And as you start rolling, you have to activate the right shoulder. You have to activate the sides of your body and you roll sideways as a plank without twisting it. Okay, and then maybe you hold for 30 seconds or a minute and you roll back as a plank. And there you are again. Same if you want to see it from the other side. If I would now roll to the left side. It's not first hips and then the upper body. It's all as one. Here we go. Roll sideways. And I have to engage my shoulder here a lot. Okay, so if I'm rolling back, it's not first upper body and then my hips. No. Again, you roll back as a plank between your hips and your shoulders. I really have to press in from the shoulder. And then I roll myself back to the middle. And this you can start utilizing and training, and that's where a lot of body intelligence explodes. Okay, so you can also do this, just to give an idea, you can do this also in like a normal plank. Feels slightly different, but it's the same idea. So feet are apart and you roll to the side without first throwing the hips out and then the upper body. And as you roll back, not first the upper body, but you roll as a plank. You have to push through that shoulder. Again, to the left. This is always a weaker side for me, but still I really want to train that and roll back. And start with controlled movement, slow. So there you go, that's your plank tutorial. And I hope it will serve you well. If you would do like 30 seconds straight plank, 30 seconds right side, 30 seconds middle plank, 30 seconds left side. It's 2 minutes, and that's great. If you do that every day, your plank and any kind of practice will go through the roof before you know it. Thank you for joining.